to hear my voice right now, or as soon as you can.
Absolutely.
I already have comment posts up in the Podcastica Facebook group for both of those. The link to that's in the show notes, or as always, you can send an email or voice message to talk@podcastica.com.
Brilliant. Do it.
Second, if you're digging the rewatch and you want us to keep going as long as possible, it would really help to spread the word about it. Send people to thecastofus.com, and there's links to where they can subscribe there to all their, different podcast platforms. I think any Walking Dead loving person might like to know about it. Post it on socials, post in Walking Dead groups on Facebook, Reddit, or wherever. If you do that and tell us, we will give you a shout out on the podcast. And thanks so much to Chantel Hislop for sharing it to the Walking Dead Reddit page. And thank you to Samantha Brunnan for sharing it with your Walking Dead friends and family. Appreciate you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, very nice. All right, so here we are. It's The Walking Dead, Season 1, Episode 4, Vatos. How did you feel about this on rewatch in general?
I remembered not liking this episode, but I actually really enjoyed it, especially the second rewatch. Loads of good lines and laughs, and I don't know. Yeah, it was actually better than I remembered it being. So it was a pleasant thing to look at.
I'm almost exactly the same. I mean, I love the zombie attack, and I always did.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it. When are we going to get some zombie attacks? But as far as the Vatos storyline, I was like, it kind of feels like it's out of some cheesy TV show or something on first watch 13 years ago. Now I liked it more on first watch, first rewatch. And then second time, just like you, even more. I found some depth to it that I hadn't realized before. And I'm like, no, this is a good one. So I liked it more, I think, than ever before.
Great. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Harbingers of Death. So 4 episodes in, and it's the first time we see a zombie bite or kill anyone on this zombie show. I remember we had Robert Kirkman on the podcast sometime in here, and I said that because he wrote the episode, right? It was the first one he wrote. And I'm like, I asked him something about what was it like to write the first time, and he goes, "Oh, you're right. It is the first time." He didn't even realize that. But as a zombie movie fan watching this show, I remember being like, when are we going to get some zombie movie type stuff? I mean, the first episode was pretty close. It was scary. The second, Guts, was thrilling, but not really like a horror movie, I would say. The third episode, Tell It to the Frogs, might as well have been a camping soap opera. It was good, but it wasn't a zombie horror. So for this was welcome to me, as much as I hated to lose Amy, who I think is a great character. She, we thought she was the first major character to die, but I would say now, I think Ed is just as much a character as Amy, even though we don't like Ed. One of them had much screen time. Ed's the first one. I always answered that wrong in trivia questions, but I think we should say it's Ed.
We Ed.
Amy died early in the comic too. I think she was the first major character in the comic. So it seemed at this point in the show we were hewing pretty close to the comic, but later the show ended up diverging in some pretty big ways. Well, generally staying pretty close though. So they kept it fun by sometimes confounding our expectations, but sometimes not. I really enjoy the way, in hindsight, they just kept doing that, weaving in and out of the comic and changing things up, but keeping the major storylines.
I think they got a lot of more confidence with it in the Kang era to remix and reuse and hint and play with expectations a little bit. I thought that was really cool, and the way that evolved.
I mean, I think they did it all the way through, like Shane living past where he died in the comic,
I think so. I think they changed things, but I think in the Kang era, they took different characters to different places, used character names where we were expecting different things, gave storylines to different people. I thought it was kind of
Dante,
cool.
Yeah. But Bob kind of took Dale's place. And
it bums me out that we lose Dale in season 2. I think I'm going to get bummed out with some of the stuff that we're now like, oh, that was contractual, or that was about people disagreeing with showrunners.
Jeffrey DeMunn was a big friend of Darabont. That's why he left.
The original JDM.
That's right. So that's what, from now on, we say JDM. That's who we mean. So anyway, I think watching this episode now, I feel like the show was, even though Kirkman apparently forgot, that the show was aware we hadn't seen any zombie deaths yet and was ominously building up to it in this episode. The signs were subtle though. Jim digging holes, even watching it now.
So creepy.
I was like, well, I couldn't
Love
remember
it.
why he was doing it. I'm an idiot, but I was like, oh, yeah, what's he doing? I forget. But he's digging graves because he had a dream that people were going to die and was delirious from heat stroke.
Is Jim canonically psychic?
You know, it seems a bit woo woo, but his family died, and so death and zombies are on his mind, and it is the zombie
Yeah.
apocalypse, and this happened to just about everyone else on the planet. So
Yeah.
I
It's not
feel
like
like,
waking up on a regular Saturday digging six graves and being like, nah,
yeah,
told you.
yeah. So it does feel like a Stephen King psychic thing, but when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, that was a safe bet that this is going to happen sooner or later. You just happen to get the timing right or wrong,
Yeah.
as you might like to
He'd been
say.
doing it every day. They just hadn't noticed. He's like, I'll take another one
Yeah,
today and just see.
that's right. He might have. Daryl said to Rick, "You've given away half our guns and ammo." And Rick says, "Not nearly half." And Daryl says, "For what? Bunch of old farts who are going to die off momentarily anyhow? Seriously, how long do you think they got?" Rick says, "How long do you think any of us?" So that's another little hint, you know.
Yep.
The necklace, like
Oh,
Andrea still has that mermaid necklace,
I believe it's a mermaid.
right?
It doesn't look much like one, but it is a mermaid.
I
Yeah.
don't know. It's really small, but whatever. She was going to give it to Amy for her birthday. She needs wrapping paper from Dale, and Amy never gets it because Andrea says her birthday's tomorrow, so we know she didn't give it to her. And that's like tragic. Like Amy had her birthday the next day, so that makes it even more tragic. And also just seeing this tender moment with Amy and Andrea makes Amy's death sadder, which I'm sure that was the point, but it's also a harbinger. And later on in the series, we would have been more suspicious, you know, seeing a tender moment with anyone. You're like, uh-oh. I think early on, it didn't land that way. But later, if you saw someone have like an actory scene, you'd be like, oh, maybe they're
Yeah.
about to die.
And a happy moment as well.
Yeah.
The kind of like,
Mhm.
we're all relaxing. We're feeling really good. And then it's like, no.
No, don't do that. But most of all, it's Dale's Faulkner quote. He's talking about the watch. He says, this is from William Faulkner's The Sound and the Fury, by the way, paraphrased by Dale. "I like what a father said to the son when he gave him a watch that had been handed down through generations. He said, 'I give you the mausoleum of all hope and desire, which will fit your individual needs no better than it did mine or my father's before me. I give it to you not that you may remember time, but that you may forget it for a moment now and then, and not spend all your breath trying to conquer it.'" Amy says, "You're so weird," which is funny. But I don't think I realized this until now, looking into it a little deeper, that speech is about death, because a mausoleum is a tomb. And he's saying time is the mausoleum of all hope and desire, which basically means we're all going to die. And the idea is you can't avoid death. So enjoy your life while it lasts. I give you this watch, not that you may remember time, but you may forget it for a moment now and then and not spend all your breath trying to conquer it. So it's great because it's occurring during this pleasant moment, but it's also a harbinger of what's going to happen in about 30 seconds, which if he looks at his watch, he would see that. And
it also comes back in the show.
Yeah, season 5.
Season 5. And I was really surprised when this bit happened because I had it in my head that Herschel said it to do with the pocket watch. Because I always thought it was said to Rick. Because the way that it's used in season 6 is about kind of Rick adjusting to Alexandria and life there. So yeah, the episodes 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 are named Remember, Forget, Spend, Try, and Conquer. Which I always thought was really cool when you realized it was happening. So it was really awesome to know that it was actually Dale that said that. It felt more meaningful somehow.
Yeah, and it when we talked about those episodes, I think we just said, yeah, these are from Dale's speech. But we must have tried to figure out why, what the deeper meaning was. I don't really remember those episodes right now, so I don't know. But maybe if you and I make it to those, we can think more about it. Is it more about Faulkner or Dale or both?
I was thinking about that because I think of all the seasons, 5 and 6, but probably 5 are the ones that I don't remember the best. I think 5 and 6.
They're good though. I know that.
Yeah, they're the ones I'm really excited to go back to because I'm like, oh, I don't actually remember a lot of what happens. But it was so nice to hear that Faulkner quote in context.
Herschel's watch speech was how his grandfather shoved the watch up his ass and then gave it to his son who shoved
That's
it up his
100%
ass.
accurate. Yeah, that's
what
definitely what happened. I don't even need to go and look at the script because I'm certain that's true.
Yeah, you don't want to be betting me on stuff.
No, I won't bet you on anything. I've learned my lesson.
Just kidding. That was what's his name? The guy from Pulp Fiction.
Yes,
Christopher Walken.
that's the dude.
Yeah, that guy. Great speech. So, I like this idea that, look, don't, like, I feel this way too. You need to have goals in life, but also life is short, so you need to enjoy it along the way. That's kind of what he's saying. And they're following it. They're having this fish fry, and it's really nice. And they're, until the uninvited guests show up, but they're sitting by a fire at night, fish fry, smiles, quoting literature, joking around. And I'm thinking, you know, one of the sort of silver linings about the zombie apocalypse is it causes people to get out and mingle with each other. They would have just been in their homes. Carol probably, you know, having to deal with Ed's shit. And I also realized for the first time watching this, they actually haven't been able to do this kind of a thing until tonight, because when Ed tried to make a fire, Shane made him Carol ended up putting it out. And I didn't catch it before, but Morales says he built up the rocks higher around the fire so they could make it a little higher and it wouldn't be seen. So to them, this is like the first time they've been able to have a nice moment like this. And then it just gets fucking ruined.
Well, Carol's starting to, I don't know, build her confidence a tiny bit, because she takes Sophia out there and she's Sophia wants to be there, so we're going to do that. And I was like, good for you. That's good. I like that.
I was getting child molester vibes there. He's like, come on, why don't you hang out with your daddy in the tent? And Carol seemed a little worried, right? I don't know.
Absolutely grim. Yeah. I was like, maybe. No one's going in that tent.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible.
So I don't know if I realized how many signs there were. I of course, it's clear by the end that Jim's holes were a sign of what was to come, but there's a couple other things here that were kind of cool.
I like, it's not one of my points, but I just want to say I really like the guy that plays Jim. Like like for a character who's really not on the show very long, he just carries such an amount of like pathos and sadness, and I don't know. I really am appreciating him a lot in this rewatch. And one of my notes is Jim the first kind of manifestation of sort of PTSD that we see in this episode? Like, I know everyone at this point probably has it, but the way he talks about what he's been through and things like that, it's very dark. It's one of the darkest stories that we've heard so far, and even in the grand scheme of things, pretty dark. You know, what's that line he has? The only reason I walked away is because the dead were distracted eating my family.
They pulled them away.
That is, you know, it's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, it reminds me of Sam, actually. But
that's it. The dead were too busy eating my family.
Yeah, and I remember at the time I think I knew from the comics that his family was eaten by zombies, so I could appreciate Jim's this guy's performance more in earlier episodes, because you can tell he's just kind of a shell of a man, you know, especially when you know that. He's playing it through the first 3 episodes too. He's just like,
he's
now
great.
We learn why. Yeah, I agree. I think he's really good.
I'll go chronological and talk about Amy and Andrea because they get the cold open. I find the cold open a little bit cheesy. Like, I don't find it the most. It feels a little bit exposition-y. But when I read that, when you said just there, reminded me that Kirkman wrote this, I'm like, well, it would work in a comic book. So I wonder if it's just the format of it feels a bit heavy-handed. But it's lovely. Like, it's lovely. It explains a bit more about their relationship. It explains a bit more about the way that their personalities are different and how their parents treated them differently. And we get a bit of a broader context of what is happening outside of Atlanta, in that they are not even bringing themselves to think about the possibility that their parents might be alive in Florida.
Yeah, it's so early. They're like, we don't really know what's going on for sure in the rest of the country.
And they can't bring themselves to think about it. But obviously, it is a massive harbinger of Amy's death, because they seem to reach some kind of peace and understanding of one another. I don't think they don't have a good relationship, but I think there's obviously some distance between them with the age gap and the way their dad treated them differently and how different they both are. And obviously, we then see Andrea trying to get something to wrap the necklace in, and it's just all a bit too nice because we know what's going to happen next, and it sucks. And Laurie Holden nails it in that final scene where she's looking at Amy. Like it's so brutal.
Says, I don't know what to do.
And I'm trying to be nicer about Andrea and to Andrea this season. So yeah, I liked seeing the two of them together in that beautiful quarry. Absolutely stunning scene, just the two of them on that boat. And it was funny, Dale's watching them, but there's this weirdly ominous music, and I'm like, oh. But then you realize it's because he's caught sight of Jim and he's digging the graves. So it was an interesting
what's Dale planning
there. I know, I was like, what's Dale planning? Is he going to shoot one of them? Like, what's happening here? So yeah, for me, Amy and Andrea was a highlight of the episode.
Me too. Yeah, I didn't find it cheesy. I know a lot of people did. I was totally taken in by it. I mean, I know it's probably just there so that you'll feel more connected to Amy and it'll make her death harder, right? That's why it's there. But it's a scene that really, for me, works. I think the acting is really good on both actors' part.
Yeah.
They're, and it's just a sweet moment. And I love the idea that only under these really crazy conditions would they ever realize, oh my God, our father was not, we totally misunderstood something about our father. There's a lot of misunderstanding in this episode. And, and it turned out to be a sweet revelation, realizing that he was tailoring his parenting styles to each of them, meaning he understood them. And that was really sweet. And then it got them, like you said, thinking about them in Florida and feeling sad, thinking that, maybe they're okay. And then the whole thing about, all right, remember his rule, no crying in the boat. It scares the fish. I thought was funny. And they didn't need to then spell it out that was more for dad than the fish, which made me feel like they think we're stupid. Like, yeah, we know that. But I'm not necessarily trying to be nicer to Andrea. I just want to be, try to be as objective as you can be about something like this. And because she bugs the fuck out of me later on. But in this episode, I thought she was great. Totally fine. Same with last episode and this episode.
It's an absolutely pivotal moment in her development as a character, losing her sister. I'm sorely on. So
this is what turned her into a biatch. No, I'm just kidding.
This is what turned her into a moany cow. Women, am I right?
All right, let's see. My next one is characters being treated poorly based on lack of deeper knowledge about them. Part 1, the Vatos. So, but actually, I think the Vatos and Rick's group, they make a lot of assumptions based on sort of a misunderstanding and kind of their initial sort of posturing anyway, because they're in a shitty situation, and they just dig in on that and act as if it were true. And that's what happens in the world. And it's unfortunate, I'm always preaching you should give people the benefit of the doubt, even as you're being smart and safe, but just, don't make a lot of assumptions. And so it was an unfortunate course of events. Glenn gets the bag of guns. Then Daryl comes on this kid and he starts screaming for his friend. It's basically this kid's fault. He's an idiot. And Daryl's trying to get him to shut up and pushes him down just to be safe so the zombies won't come. But then his two friends come around and it looks like Daryl's assaulting the kid. So they attack Daryl and they're hitting him with a bat, which is pretty brutal to watch. And then Glenn comes up and I don't know, what happened. They end up kidnapping Glenn and Daryl shoots one of them in the ass, which I presume that was on purpose because he could have had it shot somewhere else that would have been more lethal, just enough to get his attention. And then when they end up with this kid, one of the Vatos. Vato, by the way, just means man. It's kind of a familiar way of saying like dude or guy.
Okay.
But it can be, from what I've read, friendly or derogatory, and in some contexts has gang connotations, but not all. So the variability of it works here, I guess,
Yeah, I like
it's
that.
Could mean something bad, could mean something benign. And then back when they have this kid and they're figuring out what to do, Daryl says, want to see what happened to the last guy that pissed me off, and throws Merle's hand at him. That was really funny.
That was hilarious.
But not
Yeah.
helping.
Not helping. And also, like, all the times in the Daryl Dixon show, I was like, Daryl would never grandstand when interrogating someone. And I'm like, oh, no, he would. Yep, he did.
It
Yep,
right,
threw
right,
a hand
right,
at that dude. Yep,
yeah,
yep,
he
yep.
didn't make a big speech, but
Yeah.
that'd be funny if he like starts, I mean, not funny, but in a way, he's like starts stabbing him and making a speech, and we're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, he did do that.
That.
Oh, no, I forgot about
That was his
that. I thought
thing.
he was just on top of the trailer. Oh, all right. Okay, yeah, cool.
And then, so back at the Vatos place, the leader, Guillermo, comes out, won't make the trade for this kid, and Glenn insists on getting the guns too, or else they're going to be in a firefight, which is fucked up and hardcore. But I guess from his point of view, he's got people to protect, and those guns are like a matter of life and death to him. And then Rick has the worst plan ever. What do you say?
Rick's plan is terrible.
Let's go in with our guns right into the middle of their base and have a shootout right like face to face.
Like, is it even a plan?
It's not. I mean, he's just banking on them like caving, basically. But the alternative is a lot of death. And I'm like, dude, I know you don't want to give up your guns, but if the two options are give up the guns or go into the middle of their place and have a shootout, probably A is better, you know? So anyway, only because Grandma came in was everything de-escalated.
I love Abuela.
And she says, some guy's having trouble breathing, his asthma. So I love this funny sequence. She leads them back through what's revealed to be an assisted living facility with all these elderlies. And they get to the guy with his asthma breather, and Glenn's there. I'm like, oh, I guess they didn't have any problem letting Glenn know what was going on. He's just hanging out. And Rick's like, what the hell is this? And Glenn's like, oh, asthma attack. He couldn't get his breath all of a sudden. And T-Dog's like, I thought you were being eaten by dogs, man. And then there was a little white chihuahua.
Those dogs are amazing.
Leopard skin puppy bed. Yep.
Hey, he bought them from Satan at a yard sale. So.
That's right. That made it even funnier. And Rick's like, can I have a word with you? That was cute. And so the misunderstanding is straightened up here. And it takes, for me, especially on first watch, it really took the punch out of the episode and made it feel like a comedy, almost like silly, heartwarming comedy, right? Oh, these guys aren't so bad. But it is deeper than that. It's about having to appear tough and dangerous in this world. And later when T-Dog says to Guillermo, guess the world changed, and Guillermo says, no, it's the same as it ever was. The weak get taken. So presuming he actually was in like a low income gang life situation, his reality might have felt similar pre and post ZA, always having to be tough and fight. And when he said that, no, it's the same as it ever was, the week get taken. Rick seems to be listening intently to that. And I think it's actually pretty prophetic for the show. Like that's a theme throughout the show.
Yep.
And so anyway, we find out, they're on staff at this place and he's the custodian, etc. But I think this guy, Neil Brown Jr., who played Guillermo, a lot of people love him. I do too, but I also feel like it might be a little stilted or something, but there's also a lot there going on too.
I think there is a stiltedness.
It feels like a stage performance or something.
But I think he is, isn't he? He is performing. He's performing this kind of role here. And I don't know, there's something about his kind of clip delivery. It made it believable that you could think he was this big, scary gang leader. Like he carried it with this kind of authority.
But really, he's kind of a poser too, or he's putting it on.
It's almost an Ezekiel situation, I think.
Yeah. I mean, when he says, I'm going to chop up your boy, I'm going to feed him to my dogs, they're the evilest, nastiest man-eating bitches you ever saw. I picked them up from Satan at a yard sale. I would almost be hard-pressed not to start cracking up at that dialogue. Like, oh, really? Told you how it has to be. Are you woefully deaf? I'd be like, woefully deaf?
Woefully deaf. I think it's a funny interaction as well because it's about the breaking down of that. I don't know how to describe it better than police and civilian boundaries. Like we're starting to see it with Daryl a bit. Like, episode 3 last week we saw Daryl getting, chokehold by chokehelded by Shane and Rick, and there's still this sense that Rick is carrying that authority with him, but he's being forced to see people who he would usually view one way in a very different way. And I enjoy that. Like Rick the cop wouldn't make a deal with a gang leader. but he's
Something
starting to see
shifts
everyone
there.
as people. Like there's a shift. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we're all fucked.
And
Like we
he's
just
like,
are.
you are a strong leader protecting these people. Now I respect you. Here's some
Mm-hmm.
guns. Like that was a big shift in the moment. That
Yeah.
was really cool to watch.
I think he even has a line about, they're all looking to me and I can't do anything. And
I
Rick like
don't know
sees
why. Yeah.
himself in that. He's like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm doing either. Like I
Mm-hmm.
only
Yeah.
woke up 3
Suddenly
days
they're
ago.
like the same pretty much.
And I love
Yeah.
that because I think that's why
Mm-hmm.
Rick and Daryl go on to have such a meaningful relationship is that shift, that change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, that's really interesting.
You see a little bit of that in this episode as well. Daryl goes with him. Doesn't have to. Like, but
Yeah,
they do work together. They share a couple of
they're
glances.
starting to.
They're
Well, I
starting to
mean,
merge a
I'm
bit.
not going to say it now, but this was characters being treated poorly based on lack of deeper knowledge. Part 1 and part 3 is about Daryl. So
I got some thoughts
Rick's
on
still
that
learning.
too.
But what's your next?
Yeah. Okay, for me, you've kind of hit on it. It was the Vatos reveal. I'm a sucker for I'm a sucker for when something kind of comes in and throws a very tense situation just completely left field, and that the emergence of this like tiny little abuela coming in and being like, Felipe. They're all just like, go back to your room. She's
Grandma.
like, no. And this moment of just, I don't know, sweet humanity in it all. And she views Rick as a cop and she's like, don't arrest my boy. He's done wrong, but he'll do better. And
She's still in that frame of mind of the before times. Yeah.
and the way it just stumps them all. And there's something so sweet about her like taking his hand and like taking to see where the Asian boy is. And I don't know, I love the way that kind of played out. I think thinking about what we've spoken about so far on this episode, I wonder if it was easier to enjoy it because this time we know that the cool zombie thing is coming at the end and it doesn't feel like such a weird kind of waste of an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just loved it. I loved that whole reveal. I thought there were some really cracking lines in it, and I think that one about the dogs being from Satan's yard sale and then seeing them. And I think also just the moment of Glenn like being really absorbed in this guy having an asthma attack and everyone turns up and Rick's like, what is this? Meaning like the place, and Glenn's like, oh, Mr. So-and-so's having an asthma attack. And they're sort of like, no, you doofus. Like we thought you were gonna be thrown off the roof. And he's like, oh, yeah, no.
Yeah,
No,
we're
it's all
good.
It's fine.
I think we enjoyed it more too, maybe because, well, on my own part, I've just gotten more analytical, and so I discover more little things.
Hmm.
And there was more to find in this episode than I thought.
It's sad as well because there is a deleted scene from season 2, episode 1, where you realize that the place gets overrun in like the next couple of days.
I'm glad they didn't do that.
No, I'm glad they didn't because it would have dragged something from season 1 over. But knowing it in my head,
I don't consider it canon.
no, you think the Vatos are still there?
Probably not, but we don't know.
Abuela is the Negan of Atlanta.
Yeah, she's in charge.
She's got a leather jacket
and a bat.
I would be in her gang. Oh, by the way, Morales going about the place knocking people up with a baseball bat during the zombie attack. Yeah, well, maybe he was a savior.
There's a lot of bats in The Walking Dead. At this point, I don't think issue 100 where
no, it wouldn't have.
Glenn meets his fate with Negan had even come up. But after that, there were more like the bat in the season 4 finale, or was it the season 5
season
premiere?
5 premiere. Yeah.
Or the trough, they were just teasing about Negan a lot of the time because Glenn was one of the ones hanging over
because this absolutely nobody in that writer's room was going, Morales is going to be a savior one day. But I just think it's funny to look back and see him.
Kirkman got the idea.
Yeah, maybe he was like, oh, Morales, he can be yeah, for me, the Vatos, I thought that was great. The reveal and the denouement of that I thought was lovely. And Rick, just the frustration of, can we have a word, with the kind of realization of what's going on and the enormity of it is quite touching.
Yeah, and I just love the way that the whole vibe between the two of them shifted. It wasn't like Guillermo was like, no, asshole, we're about to kill each other. He's like, yeah, right.
As soon as you can't get it back after Abuela comes out, you can't get it back. You're like, go away. No,
we need
kill
abuelas, more abuelas
to
come up and save conflicts. All right.
Oh, it's so good.
Why don't you do another one?
All right.
New one.
for me, well, it's another small one then, I guess, is the some lines that I thought were good, funny, and sort of looks that characters shared. I very much enjoyed "Ain't Nobody Can Kill Merle But Merle," because that's almost accurate, actually. I think that is pretty true.
True. Yeah, the part he's not saying is, and there's a high likelihood he will do that.
Yes, absolutely. Even I think it's a bad idea, and I don't like you much. Glenn to Daryl to Glenn. I was like, yep,
Yeah.
that's Daryl's honesty, I guess.
That's how Daryl's nice. That's how at this point.
That's how he shows his love. And to be fair, Daryl is absolutely raging when they take Glenn. I was like, oh, I thought you didn't like him that much.
He loves Glenn.
Goodbye. And I'm like, oh.
Because, well, he's a little inconsistent, but he's like very impressed when Glenn's coming with strategy, you know. Oh, what did you do before this? I was a pizza delivery boy.
Yeah.
Super
That
funny.
was next on my list of lines, is that deliver pizza. Because Rick and Daryl share a look there of like, okay, fair enough.
But also before that, when he's saying, you're going to come with me, you know, and you guys are spread out and cover us. And Daryl's like, why me? And he goes, oh, because your crossbow's quieter or whatever. And I think Daryl feels in this moment, oh, he wants me with him. That that means he respects me, you know? So I think Daryl's respect level for Glenn went up a few notches in this episode. As much as he's a racist.
I know, even if he expressed it in a horribly racist way.
What do you say?
When he, well, not horribly racist, but he's like, you got balls for a Chinaman. And he's like, I'm Korean. But I love that line from Glenn of like, I'm Korean, before he goes and does something amazing.
And he's saying like, you got balls. That's a compliment. But for a Chinaman is an insult on two levels. One, because he's not even Chinese. And two, you're saying Chinese people don't have guts or whatever.
You're also
But it's coming from a place of good job, bro. Like, you know, that's what he means by it. And let me just say, while we're talking about this, then later in season 3, when Merle's back and he says something about I almost killed the Chinaman, and Daryl says he's Korean. That's a good callback. I had Melody Beatty, Nicole Beatty, who's Melody Beatty's daughter, by the way, as she was a writer of that episode, and she came on the podcast, and I was like, that was a great callback. And she goes, oh yeah, I forgot he said that. So maybe it was a subconscious thing on their part, but
I love it.
Pretty cool.
It really works. It really works. I enjoyed wouldn't name my dog Merle. I thought that was a really good, just punk ass line. Name my dog Merle. What kind of hick name is that? There's a nice moment where someone, I think one of the Vatos, asks Rick who Daryl is. And he's like, and Rick says, one of our group, more or less. And I'm like, oh, he's including Daryl in the group. There's still a bit of distance
more
there.
Or less. Like,
yeah,
that's
I'm like,
a bit of a jab in my opinion.
Bit of a jab.
Yeah. Why do you have to say that? Why do you have to add that part?
Other lines. Obviously, the mausoleum of all hope and desire was really standout. And of course, that final line, I remember my dream now, why I dug the holes. Oh, creepy.
It's a great line. And as I was watching it this time, I'm like, there's people still screaming because their loved ones died. And you're like, hey, I remember. Now, okay.
Yeah, you were in my dream.
Hey, you know, the silver lining, the graves are already dug, so we got that going for us.
Go, Jim.
Like, maybe you want to hold off on that and let people process.
Awful.
But they needed to include it at the end of the episode to hammer.
And also, all of Jim's kind of pretentious, like something I dreamt last night, I thought was very interesting.
I guess he had heat. He was delirious from his heat stroke.
He had heat stroke. I do find it hilarious that well, I'll say a couple of things. Actually, no, there's another one of my points, so I'll hold it back. I'll hold it back and pass it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you'll get, because I'm going to talk about Jim here.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's do it. Let's talk Jim.
Characters being treated poorly based on lack of deeper knowledge. Part 2, Jim. I think the Jim story feels pretty oppressive. I did back then, too. I looked at my notes. He's digging holes in it. It is weird. Dale's watching from the top of the RV. He seems a little nosy in hindsight. He rats Jim out to everyone. I guess that's fair. It's concerning behavior. And then it was really funny with everyone gathered around with worried looks on their faces as he frantically digs. But he's like, what do you want? And Shane's like, we're all just a little concerned, that's all. Morales says, Dale says you've been out here for hours. So why are you digging? Are you heading to China, Jim? Which is pretty funny. Jim says, I'm not hurting anyone and just leave me alone. And part of me is like, yeah, just leave him alone. Like, okay, it's weird, but he's not hurting anyone. And Daryl gets up in his face and uses that soft voice that's as if Jim has a choice. And then he ends up tied up. That's how police de-escalate. They pretend everything's okay, and then they have you in cuffs. Not that I know that from firsthand experience, but just from what I've heard. So Shane ends up tackling him and cuffing him, and it just felt humiliating. You know, he's not hurting him, but he's taking away his freedom. And then he talks about what happened to his family, which is really powerful and sad. Especially, I like that he used the word the dead. He says, the only reason I got away was because the dead were too busy eating my family. If he had said walkers or geeks, it wouldn't have been as powerful. And then he's tied to this tree, and
the kids are doing homework.
Really sad.
Opposite. Why the fuck are the kids there?
Yeah, if you really did scare these kids, should they be sitting there coloring?
No, it's like Laura's like, I'm just going to say, you're scaring my son and you're scaring Carol's daughter. And then they're like, so we're going to set up 2 feet away from you and color in while you're tied to a tree. That's cool for everyone in this situation. Like, oh my God, it's so fucked.
They needed Jim to talk to them, I guess. I mean, he's just really fixated on what happened to his family, totally understandably. And he's like, he tells Carol later, keep Carl close to you, which she does during the zombie attack. So, but it was weird. Lori, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. It was weird.
Jim and the Graves. I read it a little differently, but I'm kind of coming around to your POV because I was like, oh, Shane is like weirdly nice to him compared to how he was with Ed, which, I mean, it's understandable because Ed's a piece of shit and Jim is just going through some stuff.
Troubled, yeah.
But I think this is another example of where, like, end of season 2 onwards, this wouldn't happen. Jim would just be left to do whatever the hell he wants. But there's still the semblance of like public order and keeping things normal, and the police have to step in. And I'm always quite uncomfortable with policing and mental health and people who perhaps don't need policing. They need help in other ways. And this is definitely one of those situations. I don't know. He wasn't harming anyone.
Yeah. He wasn't. And I mean, maybe there's a case for, I think it's a lot what you're saying. It's so new, this whole situation, that they're wanting to keep things normal and it just is unsettling. But it's like, maybe you should say, Jim, can you go a little further out and do that or something where the kids can't
Could you go dig elsewhere, please? Like,
or I don't know. It seemed extreme to me. It's like, what the fuck, dude? What do you think? Do you think there's a case for what they did?
It was an extreme reaction. I think there's a case for, like, I think when you're in a situation where like everyone is tense and there's a lot on the line, there's a case for like keeping the mood of the group stable, but he wasn't hurt. No one was in danger. It was at best unsettling, but a lot of other things are unsettling. And I don't know. I mean, until Shane beat him up, everyone was kind of happy to turn a blind eye to what Ed was doing to an extent. So I don't know. I think there is hypocrisy there. And I think, I
mean, he was off to the side. He wasn't hurting anyone, as he said. And I think it was worrying enough that someone should have just sat there and tried to talk to him.
Yeah. I don't think Dale needed to involve everyone.
Yeah.
But I think Dale can be a busybody. I think we see this again and again in seasons 1 and 2. He can be a bit of a busybody.
And I resisted that when listeners were saying it who hadn't read the comic. But now that I'm farther away from the comic, I agree. He's a busybody.
Yeah.
He's nosy.
There's a little bit of like, this man's doing this thing. And
he's always watching, standing up on his RV, watching everyone and passing down his judgment.
With his absolutely fantastic eyebrows. I mean, if I had those eyebrows, I would judge everyone. But
You could really just impart your feelings to people and dig into their soul with one little arch.
But yeah, I feel Jim is hard done by, especially given when he reveals what happened. You know, it's not like he's, I don't know. There's never an excuse to treat someone who's mentally unwell like that. But if there's not a danger to life or limb or anyone there, then there's really no reason to, you know.
The best I can say for it is if he was, they said it was 100 degrees, and if he really is having a heat stroke and he's delirious, and then he got tied to that tree and got some water poured on his head, maybe that really helped a lot. So
I think there is that. I mean, he was engaging in an act of self-harm to an extent because he was refusing water and he was out in the boiling heat.
Yeah.
But also he's a man and has agency. Not he's a man as in rather than a woman, just like he's a person who has agency. Yeah. It's a tough one. Justice for Jim.
Yeah. Maybe just splash some water on him.
Yeah, hose him from afar.
Hose him down.
Hose him down.
That RV got a hose. Mm-hmm. They were talking about a hose for the RV.
Yeah, exactly.
Jim
just
himself.
Spray him from a distance. Easy, super soaker.
All right, what's next?
Well, I had Jim as well. I had Jim in the graves / although I did have a little bit about the massacre, just that it was a very satisfying payoff for those of us who were waiting for some zombie action. The zombies seemed faster than they maybe are in later seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, seeing Ed get eaten was hugely cathartic for everyone involved. And it really thinned the herd in terms of there are quite a few red shirts in the first 3 episodes, and now we're kind of down to the core group.
Yeah, I don't know how many people died, but more than just Ed and Amy. It was like at least 4 or 5.
Just count the graves.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. That would be woo-woo if you got the exact right number.
Yeah, it would actually be nice. Like, I got 9. Like, all right.
Knew it. See, everybody? Isn't that cool?
I loved how frantic it was and just the confusion and chaos of it. Thought it was brilliant. Thought it was sensible that they all kind of clumped together as a group and were moving as a sort of unit up towards the RV. Mm-hmm. I thought Morales was badass. I like that actor a lot. I'm sad that he is about to kind of disappear, and
he always was like lobbying to come back on the show, and then they finally brought him back and killed him off in the same episode.
That was a very strange decision. I thought, I was like, maybe we'll even get a little flashback of him. Nope, none of that. None of that. Actor. If there was a Tales of the Walking Dead again, I'd love to see one about how he ended up where he ended up. And that's me. That's me about the massacre. How about you?
I mean, I'll talk about that a little bit before I do my next point. Yeah, the Zed's rustling at Ed's tent and he opens it like, I told you to leave me alone. Oh, crap.
Amazing.
And then bites into him. And then we see one bite into Amy's arm. Again, Greg Nicotero.
Yes, Nicotero bit her. I did have a moment of like, hang on, they could have just amputated. And then I was like, oh, no, neck.
Neck too. Yep. Yeah. And she gave a great horror movie scream, and then everyone starts panicking, and then they focus in on this creepy ass toothy Zed that goes It was so creepy. It was great.
Very creepy.
And then just Morales with his bat and all this panic, and Shane with his loud shotgun yelling, get to the RV. And I never had this thought before, but I'm like, this could be Glenn's fault, really, for blaring that siren.
It crossed my mind as well. I was like, oh, maybe it was Glenn's fault.
Let's not talk
maybe
about
he deserved what no.
Oh, there's a hot take.
Ooh, I don't mean it. I love Glenn.
And then Rick and crew arrive and start shooting shit up. What a scene to come home to.
Oh, and absolute scenes, man.
Carl crying and scared, running to his dad. What a great performance there. God, it looked like he was really, did they terrorize little Chandler Riggs? Like, we're going to kill you right now if you don't get to Andrew Lincoln.
We're going to shoot you in the face, real. Chandler.
Yeah. Like, oh, no, I'm sorry. And Andrew with Amy mentioned. As first a zombie attack in the show, we've already spent more time with these characters than in any zombie movie because we're several hours in. So it felt probably more devastating than most zombie attacks we've ever seen. And that's how Walking Dead is different than a zombie movie, because it's about the characters.
Yeah, what happens fodder. Next?
Yeah. So, all right, let's see. Characters being treated poorly based on lack of deeper knowledge. Part 3, Daryl. So he does come off hot-headed and primed for violence and ready to shoot friends or, characters we know are good guys. Like he's getting emotional and worked up looking at Merle's severed hand and points the crossbow at T-Dog. And T-Dog, by the way, I don't think he just kind of stood there like, okay.
Yeah.
He's out of guilt, maybe. But then Rick had the gun point blank to his head, threatening him, which was shocking to see. And then Daryl adapts so quickly. He's crying and just shifts gears and like asks T-Dog for a rag. Like, okay, I'm letting that go.
I am torn about whether that was racist or not. Because he asks T-Dog, haven't you got a do-rag or something?
Oh. It's like
and I don't
one
know.
of those gang things. Well, he did have it, so it's not. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I didn't think about that.
No, just because it's so associated with Black history and Black culture. But like you see, he did have one. But yeah, I wasn't sure. I was like, I am bowing out of commenting on this yeah, I'm bowing out of this and commenting as a white woman, but I did wonder if that was treading the line of being a bit offensive at that point, but I could be wrong.
So I mean, I don't condone any racism, but if it was racist, then I think it's Daryl's way of being like, well, I was just going to kill you, but now I'm just going to jab at you a little bit, which is me
instead.
Yeah, I'm just going to insult you instead, basically. Which is still not great, but he does that with Glenn too later. You know, you're pretty ballsy for a Chinaman, and he grows throughout the series. But so now we see him tracking Merle's blood. I mean, he was such a great tracker throughout the series, but right from the start, he's realizing Merle must have used a tourniquet. He's, just following the trail, and he stuffs Merle's hand in Glenn's backpack. And it felt like Glenn's like, God, why do I always have to deal with these people's shit?
Yep. Putting the hand in his bag. So gross.
And yeah, he's like, told you he was tough. Nobody can kill Merle but Merle. Rick says, don't take that on faith. He's lost a lot of blood. He's kind of a downer. And they're going, they track and find Zeds that Merle killed, and this lit stove with what I looked up, it's an iron stake weight crusted with skin. And
nobody turns the gas off.
Oh, no way, really?
No one put that off. Like,
turn it off.
Pierre was like, oh, typical Merle leaving the gas on. I'm like, yeah, none of these guys turn it off either, though. I think it's just a wee camping stove, so it's probably fine. But I was a bit like rude and also dangerous.
This whole time, Daryl's proud. Like, yes, we came here to look for him.
Of his brother.
He's alive. He feed him a hammer. He's so tough. Feed him a hammer. He'll crap out nails. But T-Dog and Rick are like, he's probably dead. He could bleed out. A bunch of zombies could have eaten him. And Daryl's like, fuck you. You know, he's getting upset. Like, I'm going to go find him. And I don't blame him. It's like, hey, we came to find him, and now we're seeing signs that he's alive, not dead. And maybe he's dead, but we're here to look. And Rick kept coming up with reasons why he could be dead. And then he gets mad, and Rick says, puts a hand on Daryl's chest. And he says, we can check a few blocks, but only if we keep a level head. I'm like, you're the one who keeps saying his brother's probably dead, and you expect him not to feel something about that? Like, I'm much more on Daryl's side this time through than I was
Same. Racism aside.
Yeah, racism aside.
I'm like, Daryl's completely in the right here. Like, they did a fucked up thing. He's looking for his brother and the like one bit of family he's got left, and y'all are being quite patronizing to him.
I think so. And I think... And that's how I felt towards him to a degree. I'm sure I understood, hey, he lost his brother, that's hard. But I had more of a negative feeling towards him than I do now. I don't have that at all. And
well, like when they're saying, like, why would he go out there? And he's like, well, he thought you'd left him behind, you dingbats. And I'm like, yeah.
What's he supposed to do? Sit here and wait for you to come back? And Rick says, only if we keep a level head. I'm like, he was methodically tracking him. He was calm, and Rick is arrogant and needs to take a little step back. Especially when you're sitting there, Rick's sitting there saying over and over, he's probably dead after he's the one who locked him on the roof.
Honestly.
But, anyway, so I was going to say Merle's Merle. So, with the Vatos, then, as you mentioned, Rick is derogatory towards Daryl when Guillermo says, who's that dude to you anyway? You don't look related. And Rick says, he's one of our group, more or less. I'm sure you have a few like him. And it's, I guess, Rick saying he's a hothead, but it's so derogatory.
Yeah.
And, I guess he understands that Guillermo sees that, Daryl's on a hair trigger. So he wants to sort of de-escalated a little bit, but it just sounded really insulting, given
Yeah.
what we know of Daryl now, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way he's treating Daryl, and after, I mean, it's a very particular situation where you just lost your brother at the hands of these guys, and Daryl wasn't there, so he didn't get to experience what Merle was doing. That I know it's early Daryl, and that's why he's more on a hair trigger, because he's grown and calmed since then. But also, it's this particular situation of just having lost your brother, and these people who kind of did it are being dicks to you.
I don't think that Rick wanted Merle to die, but I would imagine that going to the roof and finding not only is Merle not dead, he's not there, is suddenly a whole other bag of problems for Rick, because he's like, well, fuck, this guy's going to be pissed off. And that's what you see. I'd forgotten at the end when they see the van, A, that Merle had driven off with it, and B, that the reason they're rushing back to the camp is because they think Merle's going back there to fuck everyone up.
Yeah. But as far as I know, we actually don't know if Merle drove off with the van. We don't know who. I don't think we know. Could have been any random survivor, as far as I know. Listeners, if I'm wrong about that, let me know.
I like the idea it's Merle, but yeah, you're right. We don't know that. But it's
because he didn't go back to the camp.
It is not a dumb supposition for Rick to have come up with that would be what happened.
It was a reason for Daryl to stop looking and go back to the camp.
Yeah, because he does really stop after this episode. I noticed that when I was watching the next two. I'm like, oh, guess.
But I just meant in the moment, but you're right. Yeah, like after, because you'd think he might go, oh wait, Merle didn't come back to the camp, so maybe he didn't take the van. So maybe I should go back to the city and look for him more, but he doesn't.
Well, think about how much he looks for Rick in season 9.
I know. Yep. All right. Got any more?
I just got some wee notes, and then I've got my timeline and deep dive. But my wee notes are Daryl being weirdly proud of Merle. We've mentioned that. Rick's hat. Glenn grabs it. Rick grabs it. The hat is established. Glenn and Rick even have a little joke about it later when Glenn says, I didn't know the reason you wanted to come back was just to get the hat. I'm going to call bullshit that Carl and Sophia would be that happy about going to clean fish. When Shane's like, who wants to come and help you clean fish? And they're both like, yay! And I'm like, no one wants to clean fish, kids. That's really weird. But, it's the zombie apocalypse. Maybe they are interested in it. They're so fucking bored. This is the highlight of their day. Again, there is recognition that Rick owes everything to Glenn. And I like that because it is a reminder that Glenn is super important in this storyline and universe. And yeah, I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed seeing him make these plans. I thought there was a kind of lovely irony of him. I don't think irony is the right word here. Just a lovely kind of juxtaposition of him using office supplies to do this plan, because office supplies look so anachronistic. Like, no one works in an office anymore. It's like little post-it notes, staples, that kind of thing. And he uses it on that map of how he wants the plan to go down. And I thought that was kind of funny. The things that don't matter as much in the zombie apocalypse, but they're using them, the environmental things that they have around them. And that is the end of my notes, apart from the usual 2 bits that I have.
Oh yeah, and we got to do only on The Walking Dead, but let me do my notes.
Yes.
So, I think it's worth noting, because there's been some talk, I will say, interesting conversation, I'll say, about the roles of women and how they're written in the show, and whether it's like a good, deliberate arc or just sexism, or maybe some combination in the middle.